everyone. I'm Ashley Shelby Rosette, a professor at the Fuqua School of Business, and I'm here to share some of our recent research. Now, negotiation advice often boils down to ask for more, be bold, demand what you deserve. Now, as negotiation scholars, we've long been told and have correspondingly advised others that asking for more is the key to success. The idea being that bold demands anchor the conversation in your favor. But in our latest research, my colleagues, Ani Ma at the University of Wisconsin and Rebecca Ponce de Leon at Columbia University, both former Fuqua doctoral students, and I found that this advice does not always hold up, especially when you're negotiating from a position of weakness. In fact, we found that women who historically tend to ask for less than men actually outperform men in these low-power situations precisely because they ask for less. Now, what's driving this pattern? It comes down to relational orientation, or the tendency to approach negotiations not just as transactional exchanges, but as opportunities to build or preserve relationships. Now, our research shows that this relational mindset helps women avoid costly impasses, which ultimately allows them to walk away with better outcomes than men when their bargaining power is weak. Now, in other words, when women have fewer fallback options, they use strategies that keep the conversation going, and that makes all the difference. Now, we tested this across 2 primary studies, along with several supplemental ones. So in our first primary study, we analyzed data from 9 seasons of Shark Tank, focusing on almost 700 pitches made by either all male or all female entrepreneurial teams or solo entrepreneurs. Now, we trained independent coders who didn't know our hypotheses to assess how much relational behavior each entrepreneur displayed. That included things like personal storytelling or emotional appeals. Now, what we found was clear. Women asked for less money up front than men, and women were significantly less likely to reach an impasse. Importantly, this was not random. The reason women were able to avoid impasse was directly linked to their relational approach. Their relational focus led to less aggressive initial offers, which in turn helped them keep investors at the table. Now, this is particularly important for entrepreneurs who don't have strong alternatives. If a pitch falls apart on Shark Tank, that could mean losing your only real shot at funding. Now, in that context, avoiding impasse can be far more valuable than aiming high and losing the deal altogether. Now, we then ran a second study to test these ideas in a controlled salary negotiation experiment. We recruited nearly 400 participants who played the role of job candidates negotiating their salary with a potential employer. Half were told that they had another job offer, a very strong alternative, while the other half were told that they had no fallback option at all, meaning an impasse would leave them unemployed. So once again, the results told a clear story. When participants had weak alternatives, women asked for less than men, but they were also far less likely to hit an impasse, and they ended up with better final deals overall. So on the other hand, when participants had strong alternatives, there were no gender differences at all. Now, the underlying mechanism driving these results was once again relational orientation. In both studies, women's relational focus led them to make less assertive offers, and this helped them avoid impasses when their power was low. Importantly, this pattern held even when we controlled for anticipated backlash, meaning this isn't just about women fearing they'll be punished for being too assertive. It's about women strategically prioritizing relationship preservation, and in weak power situations, that relational approach works. Now, for entrepreneurs, there are a few key takeaways from this research. First, you need to read the power dynamics before you set your negotiation strategy. Now, if you have strong alternatives, asking high can work in your favor. But if you're negotiating without a safety net, keeping the conversation alive, even if that means starting with a more moderate ask, can sometimes be the smarter play. Second, relational orientation is not a weakness. Building rapport, sharing your personal story, and demonstrating emotional investment aren't just window dressing. They can be valuable negotiation tools, especially for entrepreneurs pitching investors. These relational strategies can help them keep deals on track when alternatives are limited. Finally, success isn't always about asking for the most. It's about securing the best possible deal given your situation. Entrepreneurs, especially those without strong fallback options, should recognize that flexibility and adaptability may create more long-term value than clinging to a rigid target. What it comes down to is that it's not simply about asking for more. It's about understanding the context you're negotiating in and adjusting your strategy to match the power that you hold. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur raising capital, a job candidate negotiating a salary, or a business leader closing a deal, the best negotiators are the ones who know how to adapt. And that's a skill worth teaching, worth developing, and worth valuing across the board.